What's up, Taiwan? I'm Yvonne with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. President Taichung is looking to shore up ties with the United States on the second day of his Pacific trip. Rick Lauer reports from Hawaii on what's at stake for Taiwan as Washington changes administration.
After kicking off his Pacific trip with a series of visits to important locations here in Hawaii and meeting with local officials and Congress people, Lai has had a series of closed-door meetings today on the second day of his first official overseas trip. Lai has an important job to do here in the US. He's shoring up those ties with Washington, Taiwan's biggest backer and the supplier of the weapons it needs to counter China, which claims Taiwan as part of its territory. This, of course, comes as the US changes leadership. Incoming President Trump has said Taiwan should pay more for the protection its relationship with the US provides. Lai will be looking to reassure the US that Taiwan takes its defence seriously and is committed to defending itself, as well as show Taiwanese back home that he has a handle on this all-important relationship during this time of change.
希望达到的是3个永续目标：智慧永续、民主永续和邦谊永续。同时呢，台湾也将持续强化自我的防卫能力，跟理念相近的国家密切合作。我们坚守实力带来和平这样共同的理念，也捍卫自由、民主跟法治的普世价值。
These dialogues come as Beijing continues to protest US and Taiwan engaging like this here in Hawaii. Lai and the people he's meeting treading a fine line so as not to overly antagonize Beijing. John Su and Rick Gov't in Honolulu, Hawaii for TaiwanPlus.
At least 25 people have been killed in Russian and Syrian government airstrikes on rebel-held areas in Syria, according to the White Helmets. The opposition-run rescue service says 10 children were among those killed in strikes on rebel-held areas in Idlib and Aleppo. Rebel forces fighting Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's regime seized control of Idlib province and advanced into parts of Aleppo in a surprise attack earlier in the week. The attack marks the most significant escalation in the war in Syria since 2020. Nationwide protests are entering a 5th consecutive day in Georgia as anger grows at the government's decision to freeze EU membership talks. Rosie Greninger reports.
Fireworks launched at police in the Georgian capital, Tbilisi, as anger grows at the government's decision to halt talks for the country's integration into the European Union. Demonstrations are entering their 5th day.
I'm here for a very simple reason, to defend my European future and the democracy of my country. We've attended elections, and it was clearly rigged, and we've done everything in our power so far to show that we desire a European future. So right now, we're going to defend ourselves, our country, our people, and most importantly, our future.
Gathered outside Parliament, thousands of demonstrators were met by riot police firing tear gas and water cannons. At least 150 people have been arrested. And the discontent has spread among the country's nearly 4 million people, with protests erupting at least 8 other cities and towns. Tensions have been rising since the Georgian Dream Party was re-elected in parliamentary elections in October. That victory was contested amid allegations the vote was rigged. The Georgian Dream Party has been accused of pursuing increasingly authoritarian and pro-Russian policies, and opposition leaders say the recent EU policy shift is further evidence of that. Georgia's ceremonial head of state, President Salome Zurabishvili, is standing by the opposition and the protesters, saying the resistant movement has begun.
ძალიან მეამაყებით მეამაყება საქართველო შედგა ეროვნული თანხმობა მთავარზე რომ არ შეიძლება რომ ვინმე წართვას საქართველოს დამოუკიდებლობა რომ არ შეიძლება რომ ვინმე დააბრუნოს საქართველოს რუსეთში რომ არ შეიძლება რომ ვინმე წართვას საქართველოს თავისი ნება
Declaring the country's new parliament illegitimate, Zurabishvili vowed to stay in office when her term ends this month, saying they have no right to name her replacement. She has promised to step aside if a free and fair vote is held to choose a Georgian leader, asking the Constitutional Court to annul October's election victory. Opposition parties and some Western governments have also called for a redo, but the country's newly elected Prime Minister has rejected the pressure, saying he will not allow the pro-EU protests to lead to a revolution.
ჩვენ გამოვიარეთ ამ წლების განმავლობაში, მარტო ამ ბოლო 4 წლის განმავლობაში გარედან დაგეგმილი და დაფინანსებული რევოლუციის ორი მცდელობა. თუმცა ორივე ჩავარდა. დღეს ოპოზიციის რესურსები არის კიდევ უფრო მეტად წირი, აქედან გამომდინარე რევოლუციის ვერც მესამე მცდელობა ვერ შედგება, საქართველოში ვერ შედგება, რა თქმა უნდა.
The leader has called on the president to vacate her post and said that protesters who violate the law will be met with severe consequences. But despite that warning, protesters here are vowing to stay on the streets, fighting to protect their democracy and what they see as the country's European future. James Lin and Rosie Greninger for TaiwanPlus.
U.S. President Joe Biden has pardoned his son, Hunter Biden, weeks before leaving office. Hunter Biden had faced sentencing for tax evasion and several firearms convictions. In a statement, President Joe Biden said these charges were politically motivated. He had earlier said he would not pardon his son nor commute his sentence. President-elect Donald Trump railed against the pardon on social media, calling it a miscarriage of justice. A notoriously polluted stream in Taichung turned milk white on Sunday. Officials say a nearby factory suspected of dumping wastewater faces a fine over the incident. Gov't reports.
The Tobiankong Creek in the central city of Taichung is far from the world's cleanest waterway, with pollution from nearby factories contributing to regular fish die-offs. But even residents used to the creek's poor water quality were surprised when one of its tributaries turned strange colors on Sunday. By the time inspectors arrived, it was milky white. They took samples for testing and placed oil-absorbent booms in the water to keep the pollution from spreading, a serious concern for locals. Using a drone, they tracked down the source of the pollution, a factory that treats metal surfaces. An initial look into records found it didn't have permission to release wastewater. The factory's doors were locked, but inspectors are still expecting an explanation. And they say there may be consequences for the owners under the Water Pollution Control Act. The factory may even get shut down. But this will not be the first factory in the area to face penalties for dumping. Fish die-offs between January and March led to investigations that ended with a collective $46,000 fine on 12 factories here. Yet again, inspectors find themselves trying to deter a destructive practice and save an important waterway under pressure. Patrick Chen and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's largest lake has an invasive species problem, the giant snakehead. Locals have gotten creative as they try to root out this environmental threat. Wesley Lewis has more.
This is Taiwan's renowned Sun Moon Lake, the country's largest body of water. Is also among its most scenic spots, hosting dozens of endemic aquatic species. But its natural balance and serenity have come under threat. Native to Southeast Asia, the giant snakehead has appeared in Sun Moon Lake and been preying on other species, which they're able to swallow whole. The large predator was first brought to the country as ornamental fish for aquariums.
一开始它孵化其实是红色的，我们在猜可能是因为它一开始进来的时候它蛮漂亮的，所以会有水族业者他会去进口这个东西。
Adult giant snakeheads can exceed 1 meter in length, and out in the open, they can be difficult to catch. It also has virtually no natural competitors or predators here, so the government introduced an eradication plan to control its population. In 2020, nearly 70,000 giant snakeheads were removed through electrofishing, which uses electrical rods that cause uncontrolled muscular convulsions in the fish. And then once they're close enough, the fish are stunned. This operation seems to be working. Last year, over 35,000 giant snakeheads were caught using the same method. And this year, the number dropped to less than 3,500. But officials say it's too early to celebrate.
有可能是因为我们前一段时间那么多年下来的努力的成果，那我们后续我们明年大概也会持续观察，只要因为现在已经假设说已经执行到尾声了，那我想应该还是去保持着它一个数量的控制。
Local fishers like Mr. Chen are also doing what they can to protect the local fish, coming out before sunrise, when the invasive giant snakeheads tend to feed, to set up traps.
那它所有欲望最高的时候，基本上活饵是最吸引它的，所以我都会先钓日月潭的总统鱼，来就是当成活饵。啊，怎么这样？哇！
But sometimes the fish outsmart the fishers, eating the live bait and avoiding the hook. But there's another way the locals are addressing the overpopulation of giant snakeheads, turning those that are caught into a delicacy.
因为它只要变成一道佳肴好吃的话，大家喜欢吃它，它应该很快就会不见了。
But the invasive species hasn't disappeared just yet. And until it does, fishers, officials, and restaurateurs here in Sun Moon Lake will keep finding their own ways to address this issue, determined to resolve the matter by hook or by crook. Howard Zhang and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Cyclists from all over the world have converged on a central Taiwan landmark for an international biking event. Leslie Liao reports.
The Tour de France is in Taiwan for the first time ever. The oldest and most prestigious bike race in the world held a challenger event in a country known for producing bikes. And they chose a scenic location for the competition, Sun Moon Lake, considered one of the most beautiful cycling routes in the world.
And it was high time because, you know, there is a common passion between France and Taiwan. It's about biking, you know, and Tour de France is a very popular event. So I think it was really relevant to bring it here in Taiwan.
Racers from nearly 36 countries signed up for the event. Both professional and amateur cyclists participated in Saturday's race in central Taiwan. The challenge was divided into two routes, a shorter 29-kilometer circuit of Sun Moon Lake made for casual bikers, and a longer 104-kilometer trek into the central mountain range featuring a 1,500-meter elevation gain. Both routes have been certified by the Tour de France, which means that the pro cyclists participating in Saturday's race were here for much more than just a scenic ride. They were here vying for spots in the actual Tour de France next year. Two of the world's top cyclists, Mark Cavendish and Chris Froome, rode in the event. For Cavendish, it was his first time in Taiwan.
It was beautiful. It's hilly. There's some long climbs here, and but it was a great place to ride a bike. We got here last night and we saw the sunset over the lake, and it was one of those sunsets I had to get my phone out and take not just a picture but a video because it was that beautiful, you know.
Meanwhile, this is Froome's second time in Taiwan, but his first time biking around Sun Moon Lake.
I didn't really know what to expect, but I just had no idea it was that beautiful, to be honest. The scenery, the topography, the roads. I mean, it was great. It was such an enjoyable route this morning.
This is the first time Taiwan is hosting a Tour de France event, but officials are hoping it will be the first of many. Regardless, Taiwan's first Tour de France Taiwan Challenge seems to have won the hearts of two cycling titans and many more. Andy Xue and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. Finally, take a look at these twin giant pandas playing in the snow at a zoo in South Korea. I'm Yvonne Yang. Take care, and I'll see you next time.